Start over. It is 6:01, July 7th. The July ZBA meeting is now called to order. I'm going to certify the quorum. If you mind, please stating your name. Make sure that we have.
Christopher Tristan's present.
Natasha Charles, present.
And Gary Schramm, present.
Jerry Acosta, present. So we have 4, that's a quorum. We are need to approve the meetings of May the 5th and June the 2nd. Does anybody second that motion?
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed?
I think you may have gone a little bit faster than number 3.
I did.
And then normally, whoever's acting as the chair does not have the authority to make a motion. So when we come back to that, we'll get somebody else to make that motion.
Will do.
Although you can second it as the presiding chair. You can second it, but you wouldn't make the motion. But if we could go back to number 3, and I think Martin or Mohammed will be glad to do the introduction in that format.
Sure thing. So for tonight's introduction of agenda and format of the hearing, we have 3 items that were posted on the agenda, but we will only be hearing 2 of those. The first is an extension for a previously approved variance of the side setback at 2403 Country Club Drive, and the second is for a parking variance for a furniture store at or near 3471 Business Center Drive. The third case, the special exception for the fence in between, or the fence at the non-residential to residential buffer at 6425 Broadway Street has been postponed to a future date, and we will re-advertise for that when we do get to that area. For the format of the hearing, each case will have a staff presentation followed by an applicant's presentation afterwards. Then we will have opportunity for public to make comment. They'll make their comment within a 3-minute time frame. And afterwards, we will have staff, board, and applicant discussion. Then we will close the hearing and have a vote on the item. Hand it back to you, Chair.
Thank you, Martin. Now I'd like to move to item number 4, approval of the July 5th and June 2nd meeting minutes.
Sorry, May 5th.
May 5th.
Yes, sir.
May 5th and June the 2nd.
And before we make a motion on that, if I can throw in that comment that I had requested.
Go ahead, sir.
So on the June 2nd meeting minutes, to add in a statement in the second to last sentence under Mr. Brian Armbruster's comments, to discuss that there was adequate space in the rear of the property to place the accessory structure and maintain all of the regulations for development.
Can you make a motion?
So that would be to add that into the minutes.
I make a motion to approve the ZBA meeting minutes from May 5th, 2022 to June 2nd, 2022 with the item discussed by Martin.
Second.
That requires a second. Yes, sir.
Yes. Either one of you.
I'll second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Motion carries 4-0. New business to consideration. This public hearing is at the request of Aldo and Veronica Gonzalez, applicant and owner for approval of extension to the already approved variance as permitted by the Unified Development Code Ordinance number 2000T to allow 5-foot setback in a single-family residential R1 district, section 2.4.2.5, parenthesis C, parenthesis 2, parenthesis B. General location of the property is 2403 Country Club Drive, Pearland, Texas. Staff report.
So for this item, I will hand it over to Mohammed to present the staff report. Mohammed, take it away.
Thank you, Martin. Chair of the Zoning Board of Adjustment and members of the board, good evening. This is a request for extension, time extension for a variance that was granted by this board back in May 5th, and typically a variance that's granted by the board expired within 3 months of the approval date. This variance was approved to reduce the required building separation for a 5-foot side setback in the R district from 15 to 10 and 10 feet and 5 inches, and the board granted this variance as I said in May 5th of this year. Section 2252E1 basically states that a variance to a standard applicable to particular use shall expire within 90 days, as explained, from the time it's granted, unless the property owner or applicant files a complete application for a building permit with the city within such period. And for this particular one, we have not received the building permit. The applicant has submitted a letter that's in your packet and basically explaining that the architect of the project had received several projects, and due to scheduling problems, they were not able to get that permit in time within that time period. So the board has the authority to grant an extension for up to a year, and that's what that applicant is requesting here tonight. Staff believe that the applicant has presented a good cause and demonstrated that their intent is to pursue a building permit, and staff recommends extension of the expiration date of the variance to that will be to May 5th, 2023. So that's basically a full year from the time when the original variance was approved. And that concludes the staff report.
Thank you very much. Do we have a applicant presentation for this variance request? No?
The applicant is here. You can ask them if they want to say anything, if they add additional explanation, but the applicant is here.
You're welcome to add to it. If not, you're not required to do so. We can move on, but we just want to give you the opportunity. Is there also anyone here wishing to speak for or against the requested variance?
This is not just want to clarify, this is not a public hearing. So this is just a request to the board, and it's not a public hearing. So the board can directly discuss whether to grant this.
Sorry, Mohammed, we posted it as a public hearing, so we would honor that posting even though the UDC doesn't require it.
Oh, I see.
But since we posted it as such. So the question is still valid, but I did not see anybody step towards the podium.
So in that case, we'd like to go ahead and move to staff commission and applicant discussion. Is there anybody have any questions? If not, we can move on. No question? In that case, we'd close that and can move to consideration and possible action. Is there any discussion from anyone? If not, would you mind posting the would you mind reading the
Yeah, we're we're ready to
Yes,
move
I
to
think,
the vote.
I
Okay.
think I'm ready to move
I make a
forward.
motion to approve variance 22-05, the extension as presented.
I second the motion.
Those voting for, please raise your right hand. Those voting against? The motion carries 4-0. Next is the consideration possible action of variance number 22-14, variance to reduce parking requirement for a furniture and/or appliance store, retail or rental only indoor use. This request is brought by Gina Boyko, applicant on behalf of the Zfam Properties Pearland LLC owner for the approval of variance as permitted by the Unified Development Code Ordinance number 2000-T to reduce the required parking for a furniture and/or appliance store, retail or rental indoor only in use the business park of 288 BP-288 District, Section 4.2.1.2, with the general location of north of 3471 Business Center Drive, Pearland, Texas. Staff, do you have report?
So once again, I'll hand it over to Mohammed to present the staff report.
Thank you, Martin. This is a variance request to reduce or require parking for a furniture store for a property located on the north side of the address 3471 Business Center Drive. The property is zoned business park. Basically, the request by the applicant is to reduce the required parking ratio for a furniture store from 1 space per 200 square feet to 1 space per 350 square feet, which would result in a parking reduction of 43% of the total number of required parking. Staff has posted this variance on the newspaper, and the property owner also put a sign on the property. Staff also sent notices to properties within 200 feet of the subject property. As of today, staff has not received any correspondence or any public comments regarding this variance request. This slide shows the zoning map of the property. As you can see, the property is located within the business park district of 288. It's on the west side of Business Center Drive. It is surrounded by undeveloped property to the north, by a car wash on the south side. On the east side is State Highway 288, frontage road, and across the street is a shopping center. This slide here is from the future land use plan, and it shows the property is designated as Gateway 288. And to give you a little bit historical background on this property was annexed into the city in 1996. The property is currently unplatted and is undeveloped. This is a site plan that was submitted by the applicant. It was included in the packet that you received. However, the applicant has updated that site plan, and I will present that site plan. This slide here. This is a revised site plan. The only difference is that the building size has shrunk a little bit from what it was 54,000 square feet building to 52,000 square feet building. So what that does is actually just reduces the number of parking that would be required based on the ratio that they're presenting. Again, on this slide here, you can see on the right side of the screen, parking calculation per the code. So basically, the parking ratio for furniture store based on the UDC is 1 space per 200 square feet of floor area. Based on the 52,000 square feet building, 256 parking spaces would be required. taking away 1,000 square feet that will be used for warehouse. Again, furnished stores, by nature they're big, and that's how how that requirement comes about. Per the applicant request, one space per 350 square feet of floor area. Their calculations comes up to about 147 spaces. So that in total is about 43% reduction in the total number, required parking. Moving on, these are views of that subject property. Again, as mentioned before, the property is currently undeveloped. It's still vegetated. And on the right view, you can see the car wash that's located on the south side of the property. This view is taken from Business Center Drive, looking directly towards the subject property. These are the 8 approval criteria for approving variances established by the Unified Development Code. And as you can see, staff's analysis for each one of those criteria, staff did not see that they meet based on the nature of this request. Usually variances are based on presenting a physical hardship. And so based on our analysis, this variance does not meet almost 7 of these 8 criteria, with the exception of criteria number 4. And staff has provided more analysis on that on your packet. And basically, based on that, staff is unable to make any recommendation for approval of this requested variance. Staff has presented the applicant with other options. For example, like applying for special exception. The UDC allows anyone to apply for special exception for parking. That would grant them approximately about 33%, but that wouldn't necessarily meet their desired number of parking. So, and that's the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have the applicant wishing to make a presentation? Have you signed in, by the way? Fill in the address information, yellow piece of paper out there. If you have not, you can do so afterwards. But you're welcome to come up to the podium.
Mr. Koza, if that's actually Gina. Gina, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with you. Are you Gina? Okay. Okay, so your name is on the agenda. You don't have to fill out the applicant card. But you do have to speak from the podium if you want to make your presentation. Just make sure you introduce yourself. Give us just a second, Gina. I think the microphone's not working.
Hello?
Now it is.
We hear you now. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think it wasn't on. My name is Gina Boyko, the architect for the proposed exclusive furniture store and the applicant of this parking variance request. So essentially, and Mohammed had presented everything that I submitted, we, and this is the owner of the proposed exclusive furniture store, Sam, and this would be our 8th store, and we typically, 9th store, sorry, this would be the 9th store. So he has a lot of experience with, parking requirements and what he actually uses. So the parking that is requested, required here is a lot more than we've ever encountered. So it just ends up squeezing our building smaller and smaller and smaller. And we're actually providing, in my latest site plan that I had submitted after this original submittal, more parking spaces than the requested ratio. But it's still a little bit less than like the special variance request. So that's where we were still asking for the parking variance for this. but it's very close. I was just giving myself a little wiggle room because we have a lot of landscaping requirements to also still take in consideration. So we were going to add some more landscape islands and, you know, things like that. So that would take a few more parking spaces away. Sam, is there anything else that you would like to? Yeah, I'm not sure if y'all have in front of you in the submittal, we had submitted 4 of his other recent stores that are similar in size, and those parking space requirements, and then what we provided. The most of those 4 stores was 109 spaces required. And that was at your Grand Parkway store.
Yes, but you have 3 minutes since you're not the applicant, and you will need to fill out.
Yeah, I'll fill it out. So basically, at my Grand Parkway, which is in Richmond, I mean, it's 109 parking spaces, and it's the shop. I mean, it looks completely empty because if we get more than 50 cars on a holiday, we have one. So we have 5 stores. This will make it like number 6, which will be about the same size, and none of them are required. I mean, the jurisdictions have not required that many parking. We have a store down the street in Webster, which is the same size as this, and it's 52,000 square feet, and it's like less parking also. And I think, yeah, 1 space per 500 square feet, which is 100 over there. And I mean, literally, it's a lot of parking. And we think it'll be exactly the same business. It'll do the same business. And we never fill over there more than 40 cars ever. I mean, on the busiest day, on Memorial Day, we counted. It was like one of our Black Friday, matter of fact, when we counted, we had 44 cars at the peak time. And on Memorial Day, we had 41 cars. And 4th of July, we had 38 cars at one time. That's all.
And sir, just for the purposes of the record, would you mind introducing yourself? I know I heard Zfam, but
I'm sorry.
Don't know the first and last name.
My name is Sam Zavery. I'm the owner of Exclusive Furniture.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And behind you, there's a table that's got a yellow sheet of paper on it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone wishing to speak for or against the variance request? If not, can we go ahead and move into the staff and commission applicant discussion? Does the board have any questions?
Yes. Martin, you wanted to make?
I was going to say, I would like to make a quick comment just because the slide is a little difficult to read, and the applicant brought it to my attention that they had added additional parking spaces. And since we are looking at a revised site plan, I want to make sure that you are basing your judgment off of what you are able to see. So there are 163 parking spaces shown on the new plan. So that is a difference from the 146 that was in the previous plan. Just wanted to make that quick statement. Continue with the board discussion, please.
Could I follow up on that comment then? Is the 146 is based on, it says 1 space for 350 square feet. What's the 163 based on?
I think they were wanting to maintain the 1 space per 350, but then they are proposing this site plan that shows additional, quick, 163, an additional 17 spaces. So,
It just the difference in the drawing. Then it's
right. It's just a difference in the drawing.
Okay.
And that's because the board has the opportunity to tie a site plan to an application, I wanted to make sure that you understood that the site plan that is in front of you is showing additional parking spaces.
Okay. May I follow up with the second question?
You may.
From staff. This is my, in all the years I've done this, I think this is my first exposure to seeing our requirements for a furniture and or appliance store. I was not aware we had a difference in the ratio of square footage of the structure versus the number of parking spaces. It just, I don't know, is there any kind of a background you could give me or some reason we have a distinct ratio like this for furniture and appliance stores?
Sure thing. So first of all, I will state I was not here when the UDC was adopted, so I'm not going to get into my thoughts on why it is the way it is.
Sure.
But I can tell you that this use being in a retail umbrella, a category of categories, the one space per 200 is often found in our retail districts. So general retail use has 1 per 200. Several of the other retail types of uses maintain similar 1 to 200 ratios. So my assumption is that since furniture sales is a retail use, that the designer of the UDC at the time, or whatever staff person was in when this was adopted, looked at it and said retail use gets 1 per 200.
Would you happen to know off the top of your head what our policy or what the requirements are for, say, a car dealership? Or I'm trying to think of some standalone that's a big box store, so to speak. And I was just curious if there's any difference in the any other big box store compared to a furniture store, or would they be the same?
I would say, so if you look at department store is also 1 per 200. A food store, like a grocery store, is 1 per 200. They do have exceptions built in for when you get over 25,000 square feet. That bumps it to a 1 per 300. But those are the two that come to the top of my head, and based off of thumbing through the UDC on my phone.
So I don't mean to step out of my lane, and I apologize if anybody thinks that that's what I'm doing, but being with the land use group, I would say that businesses come, businesses go, buildings last longer. And using the retail definition, or it being mirrored to the retail definition, I think the intent at the time when it was drafted was that we know that showrooms, today it could be a furniture store, it could be something else tomorrow. And that's why it was a consistent regulation, because what you don't want is, even we would love to have you here and have you here forever. We know that there are times that businesses leave for whatever reason, somebody else is going to go into it, and when they do, they may be underparked. And then what do you do?
Well, that was the reason I was asking if we had a comparison, because I had the same thought. If we have, as things change, if we had to have eventually multiple businesses, different businesses in there, the building stays, the business goes, but
there is an avenue. Instead of using the variance, there's a special exception possibility, but then you only reduce the regulation to 33% under certain regulations. And I think that the request, even the revised request, is a little bit higher than 33%. I didn't do the math on that, though.
yeah.
Sort of to piggyback off of Mr. Strum's last question, are we to assume that the numbers referenced just now apply to the businesses, let's say, across the street? So in the area where they're building, I think Costco is across the street. Are we to assume that Costco's parking spaces are operating on that, what was it, one for every 200 or something like that?
So Costco being over 25,000 square feet would have gone to 1 to 300. Costco being a large national retailer may have provided additional parking spaces. I cannot and will not tell you off the top of my head what the minimum required that they built to was, or what they supplied.
Fair enough. Thank you.
I have a question for you.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Sir.
This is a recorded proceeding, so if you are going to ask a question, it needs to be from the podium with the microphone.
Yes.
And the chair would have to recognize you and allow you to do that now. The public
Would you-
testimony has already happened.
Would you mind giving me a second to ask my question? Then you're welcome to do so. The question I had, Martin, is this building is 52,000, so it's above the 26,000 square feet. Is the parking requirement then 300 or 200?
So the use of, sorry, I'm scrolling back just to make sure that I stated correctly. The use of furniture and or appliance store, retail and rental only, indoor use only, is specific to only 1 per 200. There is no written exception in the parking policy or the parking requirements for that use that allow it a different parking ratio when it goes above 25,000 square feet. In Member Shrum's discussion about other similar uses, that's where we brought in the discussion of buildings that are over 25,000 square feet.
Thank you, Martin. Anybody else have any questions?
I have a question. Is there any hardship in reducing the square footage of this building other than having a smaller condensed building and to add this remaining parking?
Yeah, it kind of goes away from our model. We've already went from 55,000. Well, our plan was 60, so we had to take off like our clearance center area from there, went to 54, and then we went to 52. So the thing is that we are saying 167 parking. If it's 1 for 300, it's 173 parking. I mean, we are asking for 6 parking spots based on 1 for 300. If it's a 25,000 square feet building, I don't think we're asking for a lot. And that was one of the things that City of Pearland allows 25,000 square feet buildings to be 1 for 300, except for furniture retail. And I mean, I think what's good for a goose is good for the gander. I mean, you should get 1 for 300 and be asking for 6 less because we are going to put extra landscaping. So where I understand, gentleman over there, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, said buildings come and building go. I understand, but I think six parking spaces will not break anybody.
I'm confused. Can you explain one more time the 6?
So we are proposing 167 parkings in the new, I'm sorry? 163, I'm sorry, not 167, I'm sorry, 163 parking. If you go 1 for 300 square feet, over 25,000 square feet building, it's 173 parkings. What I'm saying is we are not being considered for that 1 for 300 square feet because furniture retail is not getting that 25,000, over the 25,000 square feet building. Our building is 52,000 square feet. And so 1 for 300 should only give us required 173 parking. But over here, we are being required to do 250, what is it? 256. We are not getting that exception, what other large buildings get. Just a little while ago, gentleman said Costco had gotten 1 for 300, but because being national retailer, they gave a little more. But that's Costco. Costco gets full. H-E-B gets full. Furniture stores don't get full. And I understand. I'm all due respect. Buildings come, businesses come, businesses go. I totally understand. Buildings don't. And at that time, I mean, I understand that I'll have a problem if I want to resell it to another bigger retailer who wants more parking. I might have to cut the building and I might lose it. But I don't think 10 parking spaces will mess the city ordinance up, in my opinion. But you guys are the judge over here.
Thank you very much. Gina, I have a question for you. The difference in parking spaces between what was submitted and the number that's actually present, is that for future landscaping, or what is that?
It was twofold. It was one, to come up with a kind of a clean number, 350, square feet of gross floor area. And I was allowing a little bit of wiggle room for the landscaping once I get that more nailed down between us and the department that's going to be approving that, and if they wanted more. But we wouldn't really be going down to 147 parking spaces, because I was trying to fit in as much as absolutely possible around the minimum 52,000 square feet building footprint and the detention pond and the 2 cross accesses that we had to do on the north and south side. So I still came up with 163 parking spaces, which is really close to just about everything, either it being the special, what was the word? It was the
special exception versus the variance request.
Yes, the special exception, and then also what Sam was asking about, about the 300 square feet, one space per 300 square feet for, that other 25,000 square feet plus buildings get. It's still rather close with our 163 spaces that I'm currently showing.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So this page 2 of 17 that shows the parking calculations that we have shows at 350 square foot per space, you have 147. And you're saying at 300 square feet, you'd have 173. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And Martin, did you say, you said you did not know what the Costco variance was, or the, not variance, but the Costco calculation was.
Right. I don't know and
Okay.
wouldn't
All
feel
right.
comfortable advising the board on that.
That's a tough one. That's irrespective of what my personal feeling is on this. I wish we could maybe bring this issue up with council again and take another look at the rationale or the reasoning, the purpose of how we calculated the requirement of 200 square feet per build-out space on those things. The next one we have like this, it puts us back in the same corner on this thing.
Board Member Strom, staff do not disagree with you on that. From experience, we know that furniture store require a lot of space. Furniture take a lot of space. So this is something that staff can look at into the future. We're looking to, in the future, to amend our UDC. Parking requirements is one of those areas that we're going to look into. But for now, we're just going to have to enforce what we have in the code.
Right.
And even though we offer the applicant the ability to apply to present this request as a special exception, which is still by something that the board has to grant, but that will be up to 33%. Now, based on the new numbers that the applicant came up with, is that this variance would grant them a reduction of approximately 37%. So taking the 163 spaces that they're providing out of the required number, which is 256, so that's about 63%. So they're reducing the number by 37%, as opposed to 33% that would be allowed by special exception. So they're close, but they're not there yet.
So tell me again the number at 33%.
So 33% is something that an applicant can apply for, something called a special exception, that still has to be granted by this board under certain circumstances. So for example, this may be one of them where you have a bigger store, like a furniture store that takes a lot of space. You could apply for reduction based on that special exception, but it grants you up to 33% reduction.
And what's the number at 33% of parking spaces, of required parking spaces at 33%? How much is that?
I think it's approximately 171.
171? I don't know. I'm just
171, 171.
Yeah, it's very close. I can look at it.
so the difference between 171 and 173, the two parking spots.
171 and 163. So it's like 8 park spaces difference.
Eight. Okay.
Right.
Unfortunately, we're voting on what is written now rather than
Right.
what's proposed.
Right. I would advise the board that this is a variance request, and variances are steeped in a hardship.
Correct.
Hardships have to be physical in nature and present and unique to the site.
Yeah.
So, while we can wish for, things to be submitted differently or to come back and advise other alternative actions, what is in front of the board right now is a variance request.
Any other questions?
I don't have any more questions.
Thank you. In that case, we close the public hearing, the public section, and now open for consideration and possible action by the board. Yes.
I think he
I'm
requested.
sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Did you have something to add? I apologize. I'm sorry.
Do we have anything more to add?
Thank you very much. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, Trish, would you mind making a motion for possible action? Does anybody have any discussion, questions?
I'm saying this to you all. I'm not going to support the variance. I'm going to vote against it because of the type of request that's being made here. I think the applicant has another route they could take to get them closer to what they want than this variance. So that's my explanation.
Anyone else?
I make a motion to deny variance VARZ 22-14.
Second.
Those in favor of denying, raise your right hand. Those opposed? The motion voted against 4-0. That closes the hearing. It is 6:45.
See you soon.